Okay, so this week I'm answering a specific question literally that I received over the weekend. It goes like this. I'm pretty sure my husband is on the spectrum and is lacking some major relationship marriage concepts. He is working all the time and is so focused on his company and his ideas, so passionate about them. He never seems to get that excited about our marriage or the family. I'm fantasizing about something that exists to teach him about the socially acceptable behaviors and expectations for a marriage and family. Maybe a workshop or some class that he can take. Okay, let's just dive into the answer to that. And the answer to that is, sure there is. The outcome probably won't be what you expect. And the other person's experience of the conversation leading to that is probably going to be a bit painful and not overly appreciated. Typically, most people don't appreciate being told that they are different or any of those kind of things. And in particular, they may hear it and interpret it as they're failing in the marriage, you're not happy, and they're not good enough. And even if that is slightly true, I don't think it's going to get the outcomes that you want if we address it quite that way. So I'm going to dive into a little bit deeper the answer that I give for this. Okay, so now to address this question. First, the main thing you want to remember is that any form of behavioral change requires 4 important things. Awareness. Like, you have to be aware that the behavior that is happening is not the behavior that you want, and it's not achieving the outcomes that you want. So there has to be that awareness. And then you're going to need some awareness of when that behavior happens. When, in this example, when that person isn't engaging with the family, when this person isn't possibly meeting your needs as a spouse and a partner in that relationship. So that's some awareness that needs to happen for both members. Because remember, this is a partnership and a relationship. The next part in any behavioral change is about exploration. Okay, so now we have awareness. What are we going to do with that? And the doing with that is to actually explore, do research, be more specific about what might be the issue and what you want to change in that. The third part, and this is the part everybody always loves, is actual action and implementation. Notice that wasn't 1 or 2. First, we got to become aware. Then we've got to do some research and really start to understand what we're asking for. And then we take action and implementation. And the key and fun thing with that is when at first you start to implement these things, they feel awful. They feel awkward. It doesn't feel right. It goes against all natural instincts in some ways. And so you want to push back and you want to quit. That's normal. Take the next action. Learn from that. Say, okay, officially, was all of this terrible? Or was just one little element of it needing to adjust? But you don't bail on the whole thing. But trust me, you want to, and a lot of people do. And that is where you lose out on so much growth. So we're working on our behavioral changes. And then number 4 is you actually implement it. And you have this new behavior and you actually live it out every day. That's a whole different space. That's just all different. And that's exciting and fun, but it'll be different and it will create different outcomes and people around you will react a little differently to things. And again, you'll need to adjust to that and you need to be aware of that. So the first part of that question is the fact, wow, you're talking about somebody's behaviors changing. They're fairly enrooted. Absolutely, that can happen, but that takes awareness, that takes exploration, that takes these 4 steps, action, and then really embracing that new behavior, that new way of being. So I have to start the conversation there to then give the answer to, in this person's particular position, what I would actually recommend. And I recommend this quite often to most of the people that ask me this that are not already engaged in some coaching and they're already aware. So when it comes from significant others, when it comes from employees and staff, when it comes from business partners, I'm usually like, listen, first thing you need to do is possibly, like, for business partners, I encourage them to find a weekend workshop, a retreat, something they can go to build on their partnership that will allow them the opportunity to talk about that. The same thing is true for relationships, and one of the simpler things and easier things to have access to is actually an online workshop. That might be a great way to just start the conversation, because what I find with partners and spouses and so forth, you've been thinking about this circumstance for a while. You've been in awareness, you've been in exploration, and you are now to step 3, action and implementation. That other person, they weren't there for 1, 2, and now you're on 3. Guess what? They feel blindsided by 3. Doing an online workshop, going to a weekend retreat or something of that nature allows the other person to become aware. It allows them to have the awareness, the exploration, and then join you on actions and implementations. You can skip this, but I promise you it's more painful. So you want to enroll them in what's kind of happening. The next thing I usually encourage for relationships in particular, marital, significant other types of things, is couples counseling. Because now you have a referee, you have a translator, and you have somebody there to support both of you and to make sure each other is actually heard, which can wind up not happening just doing an online workshop. So I highly recommend doing that. Counseling is always going to be something I'm recommending for people. You want to find a counselor, though, that has worked with different thinkers, that has worked with executives, if that's who you're married to, who's worked with someone who has similar, who's worked with someone who has had traits similar to your significant other. That will be very, very helpful. You will not have to waste so much time educating the counselor. That's what I can see kind of happening with that. And then the third thing, which you're not going to be at all surprised that I'm saying, is coaching. Absolutely. After you have done the other things and possibly this person has become aware that, their behaviors are not leading them in the direction they want to go, that they want their significant other to feel valued and heard and appreciated, and they would like to change some of their behaviors, but it's not going to be super easy. That is exactly when coaching can be hugely, immensely valuable and add great support to the changes and the things that you as a team want to make happen as a family. And then working on it week after week, being able to talk about it, being able to learn new techniques and understanding who they are and the strengths and weaknesses that they bring to things, and better being able to negotiate that as a team, and communicate it. In particular, that tends to be, as I'm saying this, that tends to be one of the biggest things I hear from significant others, partners, girlfriends, boyfriends, those types of things, is just that I don't feel heard. Like I've said this so many times, they're not hearing me. You're not wrong and you're not entirely right. It just hasn't landed the way you want it to. And so that is one thing when it comes to relationship coaching. When that winds up being a little part of the coaching that I do, I'm always looking for ways to restate what was stated. Because quite often someone will come to me and they'll be like, my significant other said this and I can't believe that. And I said, pause for a minute. Let me give you another angle on that. Let me help you see a different perspective. And I might spatter off 4 or 5 different perspectives, but one of them they'll go, oh, is that what they meant? I'm like, I don't know. But if it was, what would your reaction be? And it allows them the opportunity to see, oh, that instant interpretation might not be the only interpretation. So there's room for growth and improvement. So if you are in a relationship and you're not feeling heard, you're not receiving what you need in that relationship, that is valid too. And I want to acknowledge that. And if you want it to change, you're going to need to explore it too, because you're part of that partnership. You've helped lead things to where they are. You may need to change some of your behaviors to help the other person grow and yourself. So that is why I encourage the relationship workshop. There's a lot of learning that happens in that then makes it really valuable when you do some couples counseling. You can bring some more information to that. And then from the couples counseling can come, like I said, that coaching afterwards to really help with the implementation and the understanding. Should the person you're with be a different thinker, be possibly neurodiverse, any of those types of things. So you're not alone. I want to start there. You're not alone. If you are in a relationship with a different thinker, there's a possibility that different thinker does miss some of the obvious things in that relationship. You're not alone there. And it can change, but it is going to require some solid communication from all parties and a re-navigation of your whole relationship, which I hope you're excited about. You should be. It is pretty amazing what comes from those conversations. A lot more happiness, a lot more balance for families. It's just great. So you're not alone. Coaching belongs in there, but there's kind of a process if you want it to be more successful. And this is the process I have seen success-wise. If you want to check out my article that I wrote about this, I do have some additional links to a few of the workshops that I have seen clients go through that they have recommended. Because they've tried them and had great results. I'm Joy Gina, unconventional leadership coach, international neurodiversity coach, and champion for the world just having a lot easier time getting along. Bye now.